Walking quite limited now.
Significantly harder than the cool one.
How much does heat affect your performance?
Well, we're about to find out. We've come here to the University of Bath and we're going to be cranking up the heat in their heat chamber whilst racing each other on Zwift's Tempus Fugit time trial course in Watopia.
Yeah, and to be honest, that is tough at the best of times, but today we're going to be riding at temperatures and humidity levels similar to that experienced in Kona at the Ironman World Championships, and more if we can manage it.
That's like 32 degrees and 90% humidity. I'm not sure we want to go that high, Mark.
Yeah, but that's what we're doing.
I've been there and it's painful. You definitely don't want to crank it higher than that.
Yeah, that's not even the worst bit. The fact is we're going to be racing one another flat out on Tempus Fugit whilst that temperature is rising.
So here we are at our heat chamber at the University of Bath. It's a relatively rudimentary heat chamber. It's basically a greenhouse with a simple fan heater in it, but it's more about how the test is carried out and how the temperature is monitored. And we're in the very capable hands of Jonathan Robinson from the University of Bath Sports Science Department. So he's going to be keeping an eye on us throughout this experiment. And these little tents can get up to and in excess of 40 degrees Celsius, which we're not going to get to today, but we can control that temperature and get it to whatever temperature you like. So maybe something like Kona?
Yeah, well, you might be watching this and thinking, but I don't plan on going to Kona or intend on racing in Kona. Obviously, we're taking things to extremes a little bit today, and we've picked out an iconic event, Kona. But have you ever done an indoor workout in a very hot room, or perhaps forgot to put the fan on, or maybe got caught out on a really hot day? Well, it's likely you will have experienced some of the effects that we may well do today, and that is why we're here.
Yeah, we're going to track our heart rate and our core temperature and exactly what's going on in our bodies when we hit that really tough patch and it gets a bit hot in there. So I think it's time to get set up and get in our kit. Let's go. Okay, so the temperature in our heat chambers is now up around 32 already, which just doesn't sound that high, but when you add in the humidity, it's already fairly humid in here, and it's only going to get more humid as we start sweating in there. It's going to put it in the dangerously high heat index range.
Oh boy, when you say it like that, it makes me really quite scared. Obviously, we've done some baseline tests already at a normal room temperature with multiple fans as well. I managed a time of 25:02, 337 average watts, and average heart rate of 167.
Yeah, very impressive there, Mark. I managed a 27:10 for the time at 290 watts and an average heart rate of 155 beats per minute. I think my Zwift avatar might be a little less fit and more fat than Mark's Zwift avatar.
I've also got the chaps along from Precision Fuel and Hydration. They are going to be monitoring our sweat rate, loss, and also sodium concentration. We've already done their advanced sweat test at rest, and I can conclude I'm a very salty sweater, almost double that of James. So yeah, wish me luck.
Yeah, you're going to need it. Good luck, mate.
All right,
let's do this. Yeah. Ooh, that is toasty. Oh, just barely. Yeah, I'm not even going to start with this on. No. If you can, just barely. Good tactic, James. Yeah. Oh, this feels so hot. Are you not sweating much? You're barely sweating, aren't you?
Haven't really sweated much yet. Starting to feel it under this headband. It's the first time I felt it.
I'm already up to 165 BPM.
Oh, I'm bad. Just got over 140. We're only 4 to 5 minutes in. I'm already at 170 BPM. So that's higher than my average. But that's something, it's just climbing. It's just climbing. So I'm trying to hold the same as I did in the nice cool conditions in my garage. I am, the heart rate is creeping up much faster than I'd like it to. We're only 5 minutes in, so starting to get a bit of a sweat on too. Can't imagine why. Oh, so we are 5 kilometers into our heat chamber ride. How are you feeling, Mark?
Well, man.
I'm starting to build up a bit of a sweat. I am hurting quite a lot. This little really hot fishbowl we're sitting in, the spectators are not cheering us on at all. Heart rate is rapidly going up now, 10 minutes into the test. I'm teetering on 180 BPM. I've still got a good, probably 12, 13, 14 minutes left. .182, 183, way above my max in the last one. That's still got 10 minutes. Great for me. Halfway through, and my heart rate is hovering higher than my maximum was on the cool test, and I'm beginning to doubt I can sustain this for another 9 kilometers. $5K to go. 182, 181. We're going to keep this walking quite limited now. I've also got 5Ks to go now, and heart rate is still creeping up, and power has started creeping down. It's going to be a long 5Ks. Noticeably though, my tent is less steamy than Mark's. Oh. Coming out.
Good work.
Oh.
How you feeling, James?
Broken.
That's it, then.
Now, before we dive into our numbers, it's time to find out how much fluid we have lost through our sweat. So we weighed ourselves before and now after with our bottles. And interestingly, we both lost 0.5 kilograms. Although the test was quite short, ideally it would be at least an hour or similar duration intensity to your race for better accuracy in determining sweat loss.
All right, so done. That was pretty much as painful as it looked, I imagine.
Right in the deep end.
Yeah, it was really hot in those little bubbles.
I did notice mine got a lot more condensate than yours.
Yeah. I think mine was probably hotter than yours.
Oh, sure.
Anyway, here's for the results. So I held exactly the same power, 290 watts in the heat.
Did not. I dropped down from 337 to 308, so almost a 10% drop.
Yeah, you're suffering there. I did have a significantly higher heart rate though, a whole 10 beats per minute average higher, and my max was 181, which is
That's good going for you.
That's like the max I've ever seen it, pretty much. Yeah. Which is probably something to do with my fitness, but also how much I was working in.
Mine was a similar increase, so I went up from 166 to 175 and a max of 189, which equally I've not seen for a very long time.
Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. I worked hard, I was really hurting, but to be able to hold the same power in significantly harder conditions is, I'll pat myself on the back. But let's look at what exactly was actually going on in our bodies, why our heart rates were so much harder for what is essentially the same effort. Jonathan, can we throw it to you?
Yeah, certainly. I think that the key thing with heat is obviously the body's fighting to kind of keep your core temperature the same, and that manifests itself in several ways. So it's going to affect performance. It'll increase the heart rate, it'll cause you to sweat more, all those sorts of things, and you kind of see different changes from different people. What's really quite remarkable, I think, with heat though as well in the human body is there are things that will adapt or help you adapt to that. So the body can adapt really quickly to heat stress, so a couple of weeks, bring your performance up to normal and feeling virtually the same.
I'm going to go on a whim here and say that James is far more
So not only can you adapt in 2 weeks, you can also adapt throughout your whole life. And I, growing up in a hot climate, I'm probably a little bit better adapted to the heat than Mark maybe is growing up.
And also you've done quite a few Kona cycles trying to acclimatise this kind of heat.
Exactly.
So, yeah, Andy, how can we help ourselves as we do train in the heat? Because a lot of us are jumping on indoor trainers where it does get quite hot, or we're trying to train for events like this.
Yeah, for definite. Well, like Jonathan mentioned, one of the reasons your heart rate goes up is because you're trying to distribute blood flow to the skin and to other parts of the body to keep yourself cool, as well as feeding the working muscles. And hydration plays a big role in that. We were measuring your sweat sodium before, and then also, interestingly, during that test. And both of you on that were kind of about the same. Because you were sweating so hard, your sweat sodium went up a tiny little bit, about 8% or something like that, actually, for both of you. And so replacing electrolytes, replacing fluids when you're sweating for prolonged periods will help you to keep homeostasis, basically help keep that temperature more equal.
Interestingly, we both lost almost the same weight, the same number of milliliters in the time that we were in there. But as before, Mark was losing almost twice as much salt as I was during that same period. So practically in a race situation, Mark would have to consider that and obviously replace those salt at the same time he's replacing the same amount of fluid as me, so he's going to have a higher concentration in his energy drinks and etc. during a race, which is very interesting going into any kind of performance in heat, which maybe you are heading to soon.
Yeah, Jonathan, is there anything we can do to help us acclimatise better?
Yes, certainly. I think the main factors initially, fitness. So the fitter you are, the more you're going to be able to deal with the heat, even without.
That's where I've gone wrong, I think.
Even without the acclimatisation, and then, as we've alluded to already, previous exposure to heat and previous.
So you're going to get one of these regularly.
Acclimatisation is really beneficial. So obviously you've had much more history of that. So maybe it might only take you 3 or 4 sessions to come up, whereas it might take Mark 5 or 6 to come up to the same sort of level. But I think once you become heat acclimated, then you get that back quicker. So once you're more used to it. So fitness, acclimatization, and obviously looking at your hydration strategies and all those sort of things.
Well, talking of which, I was actually going to ask you, Andy, because you work with a lot of pro athletes, or athletes in general, but a number of pro athletes heading to Kona. What do you do with them in the lead up to an event like this?
A lot of it is around data gathering to understand their sodium concentrations and their sweat losses in different conditions. Obviously, the closer we get to a big race, the more you want to do that in simulated race conditions. So for Kona, you'd do it in a heat chamber if you were here in the UK, or you might be lucky enough to be somewhere where you can simulate the conditions outdoors. Also the duration and intensity where you can, so it means doing some big sessions and really looking at total sweat and sodium losses. And then it's a case of taking those numbers, and where people fall down sometimes is they think, oh well, I've measured, like for you guys, you were both sweating out about 2 litres an hour today, and we can work out the sodium loss as well. And people think, oh well, if I'm losing 2 litres an hour, I need to drink 2 litres an hour. But it's not quite that simple, because 2 litres an hour is an extremely high amount of fluid to try to ingest. And we know that over drinking, almost as much as under drinking, can be a problem. And there's things about how much your gut can tolerate, how much you can actually absorb. So what we end up doing is probably a 6 to 8 week process of a little bit of trial and error in those last few weeks to hone in on, okay, what is that individual number? And then what the end result of it all is what we would term probably some guardrails for a race. So we would be saying to you, maybe like, your sodium number per hour is going to be X, between X and Y milligrams roughly, and your danger is going to be different because of your losses. Your fluid number is going to be around this. We'd actually do the same with carbohydrate probably as well, as the third sort of major factor in your performance. And then during the race, you're learning to dynamically manage that on the go. So you start off with the plan on the bike. You've both raced long races. You know that as the race goes on, that plan goes out the window, and you sort of then have to act on feel and experience. So it's that slightly messy, iterative process is the key.
We've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's been a lot of information to digest in this video. We hope it's helped you. If nothing else, it should have taught you that heat is not something you should just head to your race and tough it out. It is something you need to consider in your preparation. There is a lot of factors to consider, and there are a lot of things that you can do to prepare yourself better for the heat, so that your race in the heat doesn't go sideways and you don't end up lying underneath a shady tree on the side of the race course. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up, and remember to subscribe to GTN for more videos about everything triathlon.